Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Why Does One Have Ego? Acharya on Saint Laleshwari 2019. So this is interesting. I'm kind of curious. Again, I'm trying to decipher how Acharya here distinguishes between the ego and the consciousness. Now, mind you, I'll use his definition. Um, Pure consciousness as opposed to perhaps just consciousness. Also, in one of the videos, he does use the word mind as, I believe, either consciousness or pure consciousness. It seems like pure consciousness at one point. But anyways, let's go and get started. Why do I have ego?
Do not ask why does the will or the wisp or the ego or your personal center still exist. If you will ask why does it exist, the answer is your birth. It exists because you do. When was the ego born? When I was born. As long as you keep taking yourself as the born one, as the one who took birth one day and is going to die one day, the ego is definitely going to remain. So if Parmeshwari asks, why do I have ego? Do you see what comes before the ego?
Ego comes before.
What is the question? Why do I have the ego? I doesn't even need to have the ego. The I is the ego. Till there is Parmeshwari, there is bound to remain the... Don't you see what Parmeshwari means? A body that is separate from the... that is ego. As someone who is localized temporally and spatially, Parmeshwari is in this hall at 12 noon. Had she been the truth, she would have continued wherever she was. But at 3 p.m., she would be at the Ganga, not here. So she is localized. She is localized. Similarly, spatially, at 12 noon, because she is here, so she cannot be at the Ganga. This is what is ego. A thing of time and space. A thing that is severely limited by time and space, and therefore suffers, and is therefore debilitated. Even if you want to, you cannot be at the ghat at this very time. And that, you see, is at the center of a lot of your suffering. Were you not limited in time, you would have immediately gone back to the past and corrected it. But you are limited in time. If you are here, you can neither be in the past nor in the future. If you were not limited in space, then you would have controlled the entire universe by being present wherever you wanted to. Or maybe by being present everywhere in the universe and therefore being the universe itself. But you cannot do that, and therefore you suffer. Do you now see what desire is? All your desires are limited to time and space. You could also say all your desires are related to your limitations in time and space. All your desires are related to your limitations in time and space. Had you not been limited, what would have you desired? If you are the entire universe at all times, what is left to desire? Therefore, as long as there is this there would remain the will of the wisp. Now you have to see, what do you want to do with this necessary limitation? That's the human condition, no? This necessary, this inevitable limitation. That is why those who have known the saints, they have said that it was not a great thing that happened to you, the human birth. But now that it has occurred, you better make the best use of it. But it would have been far, far better had you never really been. Now that you are born, strive to come out of this incessant cycle of birth and rebirth and death.
A bit grim to say, oh, the worst thing that happens to being born. I always looked at it as a matter of perspective. You know, if you're born into a rich family, well, I wouldn't say that necessarily that you're automatically happy, but life is easier. But the problem is, people who are born in rich families, that's the norm of their life. Anything more difficult than that is hardship. Meaning that if you have to cook your own food or microwave your own food because you always have a chef that will prepare everything for you, you know, doing something for yourself is hardship. Whereas if you're born poor, where you have to do everything for yourself, it can be miserable, but that's the norm. Maybe you get used to that, and that's the thing that something I've thought about a little bit. um, where I looked at where I was from and where I'm at, and I'm wondering if other people in similar situations I was see it the same way. Where I look at a lot of what Americans seem to be ungrateful for, and is it just because this is their norm versus where my norm was different? So I am very grateful for being in America, for sure. There's so much more opportunities here than where I was from. As a matter of fact, where I'm from, a lot of people are, going overseas to find jobs, and they send money back home just because there's really no real opportunity there. I mean, there is, but it's not as much. But it is growing. It is growing. That's what I'm happy about. But yeah, just weird topic. I guess I just got into, but it is a matter of perspective. Saying that being born is the worst thing, but I don't know. A lot of people will see this life as something that's cursed, you could say, or suffering. But again, that's a matter of individual perspective. Do I find me being born a curse? No, not at all. Do I find my life to be suffering? Not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm quite grateful, and I'll say this. I guess you could say that I'm grateful for where I grew up, the kind of culture that I have of where I was born, and also going to the college class, which I believe an Indian woman, because she had a red dot on her forehead. I forgot what that was called, but it was world religion. I really wanted to take that because I was just curious about world religion, and the saying when we were into Buddhism, that life is suffering. When I first heard that, I'm like, no, it's not. Childbirth is not suffering. I thought about it, like, wait a minute. Whenever the woman's giving birth, she is screaming in pain. So I was like, never mind. But after that, it wasn't suffering. They're in joy. But it seems like someone or something has to suffer in order for joy to occur. As like because of that, one of the greatest joys, generally speaking, is a child. I mean, majority of people will say they absolutely love their children, and they wouldn't give up their children for anything in the world, and I do believe that to be true. But anyways, matter of perspective. But I get what he's trying to say. Essentially, is that the whole point of liberation is to end this rebirth cycle.
In fact, that's what is liberation. That's how the Orient has known liberation. Liberation from the
Yes, cycle of birth, rebirth,
because the moment you are born, that is born from which you seek liberation. The moment you are born along with that from which you seek liberation. So why be born at all?
taken birth.
Yes, so now you better use it to the fullest.
This would almost teach people to not give birth to children. It's like, why should I bring a child into this world to suffer? I don't know. That seems very, very. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. I mean, with him saying this, like, the best thing is not to be born, but since you're born, might as well make the best of it. It really seems very, downish. But let me know what you guys think. For me, I'd say that seems very downish. Again, a lot of people are very proud of their children, and not in an egotistical way. They're just very proud that they have a child that's well educated, well demeanored, has a great personality, and who genuinely just wants to help the world. Kind of like what he's saying here, now that they're born, you know, and would not would never say, "Oh, I wish my child was never born." There are some people out there like that for sure. It's like, my child's the devil, but they're generally just a terrible parents or parent, depending. Um, but anyways, let me know what you guys think about that one. It's like, do you think him saying this is kind of a like, does it seem to put off people from giving birth to children, or what? Because again, especially for those of you who have been following Acharya for a while now, I followed him for a little bit, maybe 2 years, 3 years, maybe somewhere around there. I don't know for exactly, but let me know what you guys think about that. That, especially that specific phrasing about, it's better to not have been born, but if you're born, you must also make the best of it. To me, that's almost like, the planes crash. Might as well make the best of it. But you had no control over the plane crashing. But you do have control over whether you have a children or not.
Live in a way that is directed towards freedom. And it is equally, rather much more possible to live in a way that strengthens your bondages. Hence, be cautious.
Okay. Yeah, so why does one have ego? So it's essentially saying that we are born. And, it makes sense. I believe, I believe what also creates the ego in a lot of senses, obviously, is the experience that we have. The brain, because the brain has emotions and memories, that it develops the ego. Um, for example, if you don't have a brain and somehow the body still functions, then you would have no ego because you have no emotions, you would have no memory. You'll always be living just in the moment. I believe. Let me put it that way. I believe there's also what they call lobotomy, I believe it was, where they stick a metal pin up in around your eye socket and they sever, I think, the frontal cortex or the frontal lobe from the rest of the brain. And what I've heard about that is that you essentially lose who you are. I believe it's also your emotions. You become, not psychotic, but anyways, you essentially become an emotionless person, I believe. So you don't, I guess, in some sense, suffer. Um, Again, I'm not too sure. I didn't really study up too much on that, but it seems they say you're a different person. It seems like you don't care. That's what I hear from videos like when they talk about the lobotomy being a cure to people who are very emotional and stuff. Once that's severed, they see the people who know them see them as a different person, and also they see them as a person who doesn't care. But I think everything else is still intact, I believe. So, um, I wonder if that's one way of I wouldn't say enlightenment per se, but like ending of some portion of suffering, because emotion is very much that of suffering as far as I can tell, because when you feel bad, that's when you start to suffer. I think at any other point, do you actually suffer if you don't feel bad about something? Like, I believe that's what suffering is feeling bad about something. Because you could go through this entire life, and if you never feel bad about anything, but you're content or happy, or just content in general, I wouldn't say that you're enlightened, but you have ended suffering. Right? I know there's a difference, but I'm curious as to what that is. And then I would still have to know what is enlightenment. Essentially, there's the detachment, but detachment would be emotional too. But actually, it's probably because the detachment is the detachment between your ego and yourself, and your ego being that of one who still has attachments to the world. It's a bit confusing a little bit, because when I think of Swami, I look at Swami Vivekananda, where he's still reportedly crying and weeping because of the suffering in the world and because of people around him, that he wishes that they were not suffering as well, but yet he still weeps. But yet he's considered to be an enlightened being, so there is still emotion there. The ego is still there, I believe. I don't know that for sure, but to say the weep, because all these emotions are attached to the ego, or at least to the body. So it's to say weeping, happiness, joy, emotions are all part of the ego, I believe. And because it's all attachment, emotion is very much attachment. All emotion is attachment, I believe. Actually, let me make that claim out there right now. All emotion is attachment. Prove me wrong in the comments below. I don't know. I'm genuine. I believe so. I believe all emotions are attachment, because if you're sad about something, it's because you've lost something. If you're happy about something, because you received something, or well, not necessarily received something, but something has gone better. Whether you received something, or whether your friend has achieved this goal and you're happy for him, or you scored a goal, you've something has happened in a positive sense. And sadness or suffering is, of course, something in the opposite, the negative sense. Outside of those things is contentment, which is neither happiness nor sadness. Anyways, let me just end it here because it's getting pretty long. That's my reaction to why does one have ego. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.